Fake news and police helicopter cover-ups for October 17th. At 9:41 a.m., the police helicopter flew left to right if you're looking across the street down the helicopter pocket. He didn't do any turns at the 24191 to cover up for the military helicopter. At 3:24, he went left to right across Solero Oliveira intersection at the end of my street, end of the street closest to me, and then he went behind 24191 and behind the tree and into the copter pocket, and he went left to right, and then he turned left toward Geronimo Montilla to do a cover-up for the military helicopter turn that responded to my phone, and also to create a variation off of his exit from the park, his large circle loop that's his basic surveillance loop, and then there's random cutoffs that cover areas that are problem areas. So anywhere that there's a power circle, they just make a straight line over it and say that, yeah, that's just part of his routine. And sometimes he either takes a call on that straight line, or he's just thinking or hanging out and being thorough. And so they cover up the most insane stuff with such a BS excuse. And also at the same time, when he was doing that, there's a large helicopter in the copter pocket going left to right, and it was chopping, and I'm pretty sure it was the large white blue. I have written here large white blue, but I haven't had time to actually check the video. So it's possible the large white blue copter was mobbing there, and that would make sense in context because of how often it had been used around this time period. At 4:32 p.m., he flew right to left in the copter pocket, and he made a left behind 24191 and the tree, and then came up into the park. So it's basically going the opposite of the route that he took at 3:24, and part of that is to return, because that's a return to the same spot in a short time period, and they're trying to do return cover-ups for when he led me down to Geronimo Alicia intersection to go past the K9 unit, and when they led me out at 11:30 at night to spotlight me, and then he followed me back to my house. So they try to do returns now, and that's why they spread their circles out and move them all around and then have them come back. And instead of just doing that, then they just use a large circle that incorporates the entire area, and say sometimes he moves around in small circles within that large area. And so at 7:16 p.m., the police copter was in the park with no lights, and so he was doing circles out there, and then he was at a higher altitude, and that wasn't because he wanted to be at a higher altitude to see better. That was so that my phone wouldn't recognize it, because on October 16th he tried to spotlight me a couple times, and he got stuck on 3 houses down from me on Solero Oliveira block, and he did power circles for like 45 minutes or something ridiculous. And then when he left, he turned his lights on, the flasher and the green running lights, but he flew over my house, and then they had to fly a helicopter with a spotlight over my house immediately afterward, to make it like to solidify that that's a known route, that he didn't just cross over my house and create a personal connection, but that many copters fly there because it's a route. And so he was out there doing this cover-up so that he could be there. Like I said at the start of this video, if you fly by in a straight line, that accounts for an hour of power circles at another point in time, because it's the same location, and maybe he dropped a sandwich and did power circles, or was taking a call, or was talking, and therefore he had to do circles. So then he moved at half a mile per hour, and his lights were really dim, and they only had the little red ones just barely on, and they weren't even flashing. And so he moved behind the 2-story house across the street slightly, and then he made a right, and he went towards Alicia. And then he turned the red and green lights on, and then he left towards Geronimo Alicia intersection. And then that's because they had to start hitting the 2-story house as well, because he's done many power circles there. So I think that they tried to incorporate the Solero Oliveira event power circles with the power circles at the 2-story house, which I guess is instantiated as a part of his regular surveillance now, all of a sudden, don't you know? And I have many videos of him at the 2-story house, and many that were deleted, and then hundreds of events that weren't even recorded. And so I think my videos were private, and some of them were unlocked to public recently, and that's why they started hitting the 2-story house a lot, to cover up for that, because people weren't aware of it. At 7:45, the copter was nearby again, but it had no lights, so I couldn't find it. At 7:46, I saw the copter out behind 24191, and at 7:57, I saw him mobbing back up the park towards Montevideo Elementary School, and he just had his red lights on, and they were barely on. And then at 8:01, I saw him he went out beyond, so after he mobbed up the park, he continued straight out over Montevideo Elementary School and crossed over Alicia Parkway, and then did a U-turn out at Alicia Park, which is right there, and then started coming back towards my house. And then he had his lights off and went all around the neighborhood, and I couldn't find him.